Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today I'm super excited to share this fun stamp layering card featuring new stamps from the Papertrey Inc. February 2022 release. Today we're going to be creating a wonderful springtime themed card with the new Weather It Together stamps and dies. Now this is an amazing stamp layering set that makes everyone's cards look amazing. As I always mention with Papertrey Inc., what is fantastic about their stamp layering sets is no need to color. So if coloring is not your jam, but you still want to create amazing layered looking images, I highly recommend Papertrey Inc. Today, we are going to be creating a trio of umbrellas that we're going to adorn with beautiful spring florals. This is just the latest addition to some of their amazing layering sets. I feel like I say that every single month, but I tend to gravitate towards these because I think they're so fun. There's two different styles of umbrellas and different ways to adorn them. So everything from polka dots to scallops to flowers. There's also like the umbrella shape in there. Papertrey Inc. thinks of it all. I am also using Fawn dye inks, as I often do when I am working with stamp layering dies. I also really love Pink Fresh, Studio, Hero Arts. Those are probably my top three for stamp layering. I like different inks for different things, and I think it's important to have a nice collection in your stash for what you like to create. For many of the images in this stamp set, I will be using the Misty to stamp them. However, once I get to some of the small images, as I often do, I like to kind of grab an acrylic block. I just find that those small acrylic blocks are so handy for the little bits and bobs and almost easier than using your stamp positioner tool. The other thing I like to do when creating all of these stamp layered images is to stamp most, if not all of them, at one time. So you're going to see me stamping lots of things, lots of florals, lots of umbrellas. Sometimes I use all of the components, sometimes I don't, sometimes I need more. Funny enough, on today's card, I actually stamped exactly what I needed, with the exception I actually forgot part of the umbrella as I was stamping all of these pieces. So the little tippy top of the umbrella, the little point, what I call the pointy thing, it probably has a name. I don't know what it is. You guys are probably yelling at the computer screen or TV, but I forgot that. So I will have to stamp those in a little bit. And then die cut those. The great thing about the dies for this Weather It Together set is that there are so many different, there's so many dies. There's dies for all the little parts and pieces. I guess that's what I want to say, including the shaping for the umbrella. There's different umbrella dies, meaning if you want to die cut, if you want to stamp your umbrella a certain way, you can. I'm going to use the die that has the more decorative little tip to it, but you don't have to. And I want to say that I love that. I love having the choices when I am working with these things. I am using an assortment of spring themed colors in my stamping today, so lots of pinks, oranges, yellows, aquas, and even lavender. I think the lavender offsets everything perfectly. And I will be using some ink blending for the background of my card, as well as a stencil from Fawn. It is a raindrop stencil with some opaque grit paste from Holtz and Ranger to create the rainy background for this. So I'm going to continue stamping all of these things with my color palette. I will have all of the ink colors that I am using listed in the description down below the video here. But I did keep to only Lawn Fawn inks for this, for everything except for the background of my card. When stamping with dye inks, you may notice in the finished or the photo at the beginning of the video that everything maybe looks a little more muted than what it does here on camera. And I guess I shouldn't say muted, maybe a little softer, the ink a little evened out. With dye inks, when you stamp them, they tend to go on kind of darker and maybe could be blotchy in certain areas. For the most part, as that ink absorbs into your cardstock and dries, it is going to smooth out quite a bit and you are left with a beautiful result. I absolutely love how this card turned out. In fact, enough that I need to make note of this color combination because this to me just says spring. I've talked about this before with the Papertrey ink stamp sets, that I feel like one of the best things you can do when working with a very detailed stamp set. You are getting 2 sheets with all of the components. It is a lot of little parts and pieces, and it can feel very overwhelming. I break it down. I look at 1/2 of the stamp sheet basically at a time, and I work with those images as long as there isn't something that maybe is on the other sheet. But I just really try to break it down into smaller bits and pieces. And once you do that, it really does alleviate that stress. You're just working to get all of the pieces for the umbrella. And like I said, I missed the top of the umbrella. You can always go back and stamp that and add that to the design. The other thing I want to mention is there are 3 different umbrella handles and also different lengths and different widths of the pull for the umbrella, which is really nice. I stamped the shorter one, the shorter, thicker one twice, but I did stamp 3 different ends. So you'll see I've got an aqua for the aqua umbrella, pink for the pink umbrella, and yellow for the yellow, and all of them are different. And you're going to see a peek of them on my card because we're going to kind of create a collage of umbrellas, if you will, and add little florals and bits and bobs to them right on the background. It's a really fun idea and I love it. Then there's lots of teeny tiny florals. Keep in mind as well with this, this is a great set of little tiny florals. If you need little tiny florals to go with your Easter scape, if you need to add them to other kind of cards, Mother's Day cards, whatever the case may be, this is going to be a fantastic set for that. You can pull little parts and pieces. The other thing I want to mention that I think would be darling, and I don't know if I'll get to it or not, but I may try. Flip the umbrella upside down and maybe tuck little bunnies and things in it, almost like an upside down, like little umbrella Easter basket, I guess, if you will. You could even make a scene, pardon me, like in water where the umbrella serves as like a little boat. Wouldn't that be super duper cute? There's a lot of ways to kind of approach this stamp set that might not be exactly kind of either what you see here or what was planned. Grabbing my stamp wheel, some Tumbled Glass and Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide inks, we are going to ink up a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel of Nina 110 pound weight cardstock with these 2 colors, starting with Tumbled Glass first, kind of all over the surface to give it a nice kind of all over effect. You could use your dye inks for this, but I went ahead and used Oxides, or just Distress ink would work too. And then I'm going to blend the Mermaid Lagoon in from the top almost down to the bottom, giving it a beautiful blue ombre effect. Once we have our ink blended in, we are going to take the Raindrop stencil. It's the Rainy Skies stencil, not Raindrop. And we are going to go ahead and create the rain on the background. This is an umbrella card. I thought, wouldn't that be cute? And I don't know that Papertrey ink has one, and I don't have one from Papertrey if they do. So I just went to my stash and found one. And Fawn has one that I love, so we're going to pop this in place. Now I will say, I put the grit paste on with a palette knife and I start to scrape it with the stencil pal, and my stencil moved. Oh my gosh, you guys, I was so mad. And I left it in because I want to show you how you see how it shifted and it kind of smeared. I wanted to show you guys how you can fix it. So I went ahead, put it back in place and stenciled. I'm just cleaning everything up. And I went ahead and applied my stencil paste, and I'm going to lift it up. Now, I don't think it's very glaring. There's a couple places it's pretty smudged. I did not want to start over from scratch, ink blending my background. I already knew I had tons of things that are going to be on this card panel. And as long as I make sure that some of those components hit where there's that little smudge and disguise it, I think we're golden. And that is kind of my rule. If I can make it work, I'm going to. So here's where I realized I forgot the tops of my umbrellas. I'm just stamping them really quickly here with my acrylic block, and then I'm going to die cut them. And then also there's the little piece to finish off the ends of the umbrella, the little tiny, almost like a little teardrop. And I'm just going to use an acrylic block and my ink to stamp all of those really quickly. And then we're going to put them all together. And I'm going to show you kind of how I plan this out. The grit paste dries really quickly, and I kind of like this layout. So starting with the upper pink umbrella, we are going to attach it first. I am going to attach everything with foam adhesive. Foam adhesive to me is like the perfect little easy way to instantly add that extra oomph, that extra something to your card. It pops the embellishments up off of your background, instantly making it not quite so flat. It just gives so much depth and dimension, and I love it. So I am gluing, and I accidentally glued that upside down. I fixed it. No worries. To the top of my umbrella, and then I'm going to go ahead and pop some foam all over here on the back. And what I'm going to do is work slowly. And the reason is I want to put my first umbrella down, and these thin little foam adhesive strips work great on the umbrella handle, but I want to overlap. And because I'm going to be overlapping the umbrellas, you'll notice that the foam might get less and less with each umbrella. So the first one is going to be pretty well secured onto the card base. Even hanging off that left side, just a teeny tiny tip, because I love when the images maybe don't fully fit within the frame of the card, and it kind of grounds the whole scene beautifully. So there we have our handle. We're going to glue the pardon me, I cannot talk, the coordinating handle to that umbrella. Then I'm going to put foam on the yellow umbrella, and we're going to kind of tuck it slightly under the pink one right here. And that looks good. And I'm going to just double check that the aqua one is going to fit, and you're still going to see part of that pink handle. And then we're going to add the handle to this one. So just trying to make sure it's straight-ish. I don't know if that was very straight. There, that looks better. We're going to put a little bit of glue here and add the coordinating handle for that one. And then finally, this is where we are really only going to use one square right in the center. I put two, but that made it so I couldn't overlap the yellow umbrella as much. So one it is. We're just going to pop it right there and then place the handle underneath this. This handle will slightly hang off of the bottom of the card panel. But that's okay. Again, having your scene have a little part or piece hang off the edge is totally fine. In fact, it really is appealing and it looks good to the eye. Once we have the umbrellas where we want them to go, it is time to embellish with the florals. And this is really where you can have some fun. I'm going to add the top of my umbrellas. So gluing that in place. I made sure not to add too much until I had the base down, and then we can really start adding greenery, florals, and all of that good stuff. And we're going to grab a glue press for a lot of the greenery. And for a lot of the florals, we will be attaching those with foam adhesive dots. So not having the aqua umbrella attached down is so great here because it allows us to tuck all of these little parts and pieces. I love that little bow. I just added that to the top of the pink umbrella. Trying to figure out my greenery, and I end up liking it there. And I have attached the umbrellas with foam, but we're going to attach the next layer with foam as well. Now that is going to create a little additional bulk. It's not that bad, but the tiny addition here really looks amazing. I love that yellow floral on the aqua umbrella with those leaves. We're going to tuck a trio of florals here over on the left side. We're going to start gluing down our florals here for the yellow umbrella and also creating a trio of florals over here. And really from here, it is simply decorating and making it your own. I'm just over the moon with how this turned out. Super fun, super easy. It does take a little bit of work to stamp and do all the stamp layering and then all of the die cutting, but I could totally see mass producing several of these at one time, stamping different sentiments on them and sending them out for all kinds of things during the spring season. I really thought that I may end up not using all of the florals that I stamped and die cut, but as I was working, I felt like I could work them all in, and so I went ahead and did. Now, I feel like that bottom left corner is the perfect spot for our sentiment. Now, I've already applied paste here, so a die cut sentiment probably would be the best, or even a sentiment label. But I had a crazy thought. What if I try to just stamp my sentiment from the Weather It Together stamp set right here? So I thought, worst case scenario, I can always stamp it again on another piece of paper and put a sentiment label there. So I went ahead and took the Peacock color of ink from Lawn Fawn, and I am going to ink it up and stamp it. And when I lifted it up, I was like, oh my gosh, it actually looks really good. So I went ahead and stamped it one more time to make it a little bit darker, and I love it. I think it's perfect. It fills in that nice little open spot absolutely perfectly. I'm going to glue this entire panel to a white top fold card base, and my card is finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Papertrey ink card featuring stamps and dies from the February 2024 release. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, And don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new paper crafting video or I go live. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.